Okay, so we were just talking here. We're live now. Hello, hello, hello. Frank
Well, hello.
Sawalyev, the precariously named Frank Sawalyev is here, and he's a German gentleman in Germany. So he's the one to ask about this stuff. And he was just saying, are we okay to talk about what happened to you previously? Can I mention that? I guess there's no reason not to, right?
Let's skip that part.
Okay, let's skip that part. Okay. But he was just saying to me before we went live, he's not going to say anything that's going to get him in trouble, get him arrested, and I was like, well, look, we're just talking about absolutely current politics and nothing more, but this is what's happening as we speak.
I'm going to refrain from, naming any politicians directly whom I have low opinions of, because a bunch of them have sent police after people who insulted them online.
Like
one guy, like a boomer on Facebook, wrote, "This politician is an idiot," right? Like you would usually do if you disagree with politicians' policies. That guy was fined like thousands of euros, I think. So.
Oh my God. How can? And it's always the leftist politicians that do this. You have to admit.
It's always them. Yes, but
I don't think it ever happens on the right, does it? I don't think so.
The court has actually ruled that you are allowed to call Miss Alice Weidel a Nazi whore.
But you can't call a leftist politician an idiot.
Yes, because the ones who called her that were actually a TV channel that was doing political satire or something, and the court ruled, yeah, that's just an expression of a political opinion. The other thing was an insult.
Jesus Christ. Well, how can you tell? I mean, there must be a lot of people still calling him an idiot and getting away with it. Maybe that was a high-profile guy or something, or whatever. Maybe still, I was just reading about how the leftist politicians around the world. This was like I think a relatively impartial news article. I mean, none of them are impartial, but it was saying that the left is roundly hated. Like left around the world is like on the run, or they're largely despised. And just had pictures of like Starmer and obviously Biden and all the rest of them. They're in a very unpopular downturn right now. And really, it is the hyper corrupt antics like this. I really do think even soft-faced normals have kind of copped on that they're really extremely corrupt.
People are annoyed at this kind of thing, and it's really egregious with them. The thing is, in Germany, you can actually sue someone when he insults you. But the purpose of this is
in general? So if someone in Germany comes and calls you an idiot, you can sue him and get like a couple thousand.
Technically, if we were to get into a heated argument in Germany and someone calls the other guy an asshole, you're allowed to sue him, and he can be fined for that, which is fucking ridiculous. I do not agree with that law at all. But
yeah,
the spirit of the law is that it's a personal insult directed at you and you witness it directly, right? Now, what these politicians are doing is they're using AI tools to crawl the internet for any post that insults them, and then they just send, mass litigations at people they find, which is absolutely not in the spirit of the law because they don't witness it. They actively look for insults they can then send people to court over. Which is just corrupt, right? It's just very heavy-handed, and
it's so bad.
It's backfired before. Like it has backfired before and ruined politicians' reputation.
Okay, well let's lay the ground here, anyways. Let's properly lay the ground. We're going to be talking about, how do you say her name? Alice
Weidel. Yes.
Weidel, is it?
Weidel, yes.
Weidel, sorry, right, Weidel. Alice Weidel. So, and the lesbian Reich, as I put it, if she was elected to power, would she be the first lesbian in such a position ever? And maybe not. Has there been one? Probably there has. And
I don't know.
Maybe. Anyways, one of the few. Anyways, and she's not we were talking about before, if it's going to be a lesbian running Germany, they could at least be good-looking lesbians, right? Well, she's not bad. But her partner is garbage.
She's definitely a lot better looking than Merkel was.
She's a lot better looking than Merkel, yeah. I mean, imagine if her partner was that other really good looking one from from the AFD. There was a really like model-looking chick that was involved in it at one point. I don't know what happened to her. I actually messaged her to see would she do an interview. But that would be
could
some
it be
real.
Naomi Seibt?
No. She's what? How old is she? 14?
No.
She's like
okay. She has to be in her 20s, I think.
I didn't even know she was in AFD. I thought she was just a Twitter person. No. There was one.
I don't know. She's mostly a Twitter person. And the funny thing is, yesterday in a German big state TV show, right? Just a big show where they invite high-profile politics people.
Yep.
One of them, they were talking about how Elon Musk said the AfD is the only hope for Germany, right?
Right.
And one of them said, "Yeah, how does he even know about that, right? Who told him about the German situation?" And one of them said, "Yeah, the right-wing extremist influencer Naomi Seibt." So they called her out as a right-wing extremist, and she already reacted to that, calling it utter bullshit because she's on the very liberal part of the right, just the more libertarian.
Oh, so she was just like a sort of a counterweight to who's the environmentalist one? The young one, the Swedish girl. Can't even remember her name anymore. She's fallen so far off the map. Yeah. So, whatever. Like that's fine. No, it wasn't her. It was a really, really good looking AFD woman, and I'll send you the link later because I still have her. I still have that DM I tried to send her, so I can find her again. But anyways, lesbians. So we're gonna have lesbians in control. So there's so many things I want to ask about this that I'm like not sure about. Like I'm not even sure where to begin. Also, I have the tail end of a flu going on. So every now and again, I might either start barking horrifically like a prehistoric toad, or I might make a kind of horrific horking noise that I have to do every 10 minutes. And if I don't, I'll choke to death, basically. And it'll sound like I'll try to mute it, or if I care enough, I will mute it. But what was I going to say? So yeah, my first question would be, do they have, in your opinion, is the left moving in its machinations to arrest them or tear it apart, pull it? Are they legally going to be allowed to?
They were trying. Like for the last couple of months, there were always calls by the mainstream parties to ban the AfD, which they do not really have any grounds for. There have been.
They did it in Greece. They did it in Greece that time. Remember that? The Golden Dawn.
The Golden Dawn.
They didn't just ban them; they arrested them all. They just rounded them up and arrested them and got rid of them, and they were doing well.
But so the Golden Dawn was very openly far right. They were.
That's true, but they were also politically, democratically popular.
Yeah, but a lot of European countries have sort of laws in their constitution that allow them to just split up any party that is determined to be anti-constitutional. And so the AfD are actually doing their damnedest to avoid that categorization.
Right.
And I mean, you've probably heard parts of that podcast with Elon.
Well, actually, no, I didn't. All I've seen is I've read the bits of it afterwards. So I saw obviously the shocking comments, which I hope are just I hope are just her saying what needs to be said. Probably, according to what you're saying, maybe is that what you believe? She's saying that
when she said a couple of things, aligning herself with a certain foreign country and its right to existence.
Yes, I know you have to do that.
A certain leader of our past was a communist, sort of to bring a distance between her party and that ideology.
That was a bit of a dumb one, though. Why say that? Side. Like she can denounce him without making up stories about his. I mean, he was so obviously was not a communist. It seems so silly.
That is such a boomer-con thing to say, though.
Yeah. Okay. So what? So.
Like so many people on the right that are in her age bracket think that.
How old is she? She's probably younger than me.
I think I don't know how old she is actually.
40-something. She's 40-something.
Yeah, I think she looks in her 40s.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it's generally a sort of a thing that many people think. So no, he's not right. He's left, and then that's all kind of
Do
bullshit.
they really
But
though? I mean, most people know he's not a communist. Really.
yeah,
Of all things, he fought communists, to
yes,
the death.
exactly. That's
It's a very basic, obvious, observation of that war.
basic, obvious difference there. They shot at each
But I
other.
mean, shit, whatever, But
But
so
the
that
thing
gets
with Ali is she's not the most well versed in political theory, I would say.
Is she a bit dumb? Is she like is it a bit of a
No,
woman
no,
moment
no, no, no,
thing?
no. She's
Oh,
not
she's
dumb.
smart. Okay.
She's smart, but she's more of an economist, right? So her field of expertise is the economy and how to fix the economy, for which she has a couple of pretty decent ideas. It's heavily
Including the North Stream.
criticized the green plan, of building all these wind farms for
Right.
electricity generation because they're horribly ineffective. And she wants to put the nuclear plants back in power, which were closed down by the Green Party, and which Angela Merkel actually started.
I'm actually opposed to nuclear, would you believe? We can discuss that after.
She is very much in favor of nuclear, heavily.
How do you feel about it?
I'm pro nuclear as long as you can guarantee the safety of the plant by location, for example. And the thing about German plants is they were the most up to date. They were the safest in the world.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
And we closed ours down while France still has nuclear plants directly at our border. So,
Yeah, I mean,
I think it actually makes the country safer.
There's definitely arguments for nuclear. We discuss that after. We'll discuss that after.
Yeah.
I'd say my bit about that. But go on.
So the Green Party basically is very anti-nuclear because they just are. They think it's bad for the environment.
They just are. The Green Party around the world, any Green Party in any country is the biggest gang of fucking lunatics that anybody's ever seen. And I would consider myself an environmentalist. I would consider myself a total. They're not environmentalists. They're just this gang of like trannies and losers and just weirdos. They don't nothing.
Yeah, I'm an environmentalist.
All they talk about is refugees and building, and they're like destroying the green spaces to put up hotels for refugees or whatever and stuff.
The Green Parties are basically city people who've never actually seen a forest with their own eyes, and and think they can determine how nature would work better with their input. Completely clueless.
Yeah, they're actually
they're actually chopping down forests over here to make room for wind farms because that's green energy. But we are losing our fucking forests over this. It's completely retarded. Completely retarded.
Not the Black Forest, I hope. Not the legendary Black Forest.
No, not. Luckily, not our most legendary forests, but a bunch. I mean, if they were actual environmentalists, they'd realize that trees are important.
Well, I just think, like I do believe climate change is probably, there's some truth to it. I can see there being a price to pay for all this stuff being expended in the atmosphere, but I don't think anybody's really going to do anything about it. And it's unrealistic. All the stupid crap they try to do, like the Greens or the globalists, it's just nonsense. It's just absolute. They're not doing anything serious. The only way to do anything serious about it would be to, in an authoritarian fashion, say, okay, that's it. We're repealing this part of the Industrial Revolution, and you're all going to live this way now. You need to be living under an autark with absolute power to do anything remotely. All this little liberal choice stuff, like, oh, we're going to do this. And meanwhile, the factories are still, billowing smoke, and they're making more cell phones and plastic things than ever. And
the green policies mostly hit the average person who suddenly has to pay more taxes or has fewer rights on what to do on his own property.
Yeah, it's an excuse for hotels to give you like shitty, cheap toilet paper and towels, and have a little note on the wall, patting themselves on the back, or how we're doing this to save the world.
Like over in the other house, here on my property, I actually have an old firewood stove, and I'm not allowed to use it because I do not have a proper modern air filter in the chimney. And you're not allowed to fire wood unless you have a proper modern air filter. That is a policy of
Really?
the Green Party.
Really? And
Just wood.
that's something that's been imposed, because I have a fire going inside there right now. It's actually
Yeah,
freezing out
no,
here
in
right now.
Germany, they said if you don't have a proper air filter, you're no longer allowed to put wood into your stove.
I didn't even know about there wasn't air filters for chimneys. So it's just like a stupid filter you put on and you change it every now and again.
I don't know. No, it's actually something that you'd have to pay quite a bit of money for being installed.
Oh,
So I
Jesus
just
Christ.
don't
So
want
you
to do
can't
it.
even have a wood fire. I would just have a wood fire. What are they going to do? It is Germany. They'll probably find a way to get you.
They probably someone's going to notice, and you're gonna get fined.
I actually had a chimney fire over the holidays there. I didn't clean it for, I guess, a couple of years. We usually would get it cleaned, but just threw something on there and there's whoosh. You could just hear, like, there was no fire really down below. The whole chimney went on fire, and I could hear the crack. I could hear like it cracking inside the walls. I was like, "Oh, that's bad." I went outside and looked up, and it was sparking out of the top of the house, but it just burned out and it was gone. But I still had to call the fire department. Fucking €500.
Oh yeah,
Sons of bitch.
yeah.
Even though it was already out before they even came. But anyways, that's nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. So Green Party bad. They love to put restrictions on common people, right?
Yeah, well, they're idiots. They're lunatics.
Yeah, the AFD is the exact opposite. If I had to describe the AFD with a political affiliation, I'd say they are libertarian conservative, right?
Okay, but you do have the sort of a harsh inner core element of East Germans that are
Yes,
perhaps something a little bit different.
there are some further right nationalists in the East, which is a very strong core of the AfD, and they have quite a bit of influence in them. So, when everyone's saying, "Oh, hey, look at your based party led by a lesbian," the based element is there. It's just not as on the spotlight on the international scene. And Björn Höcke is the leader of that wing of the AfD. And I think he even won the election in the state of Thuringia. So the East is very strong in
Yeah, I've
voting
heard of
for
him.
the AfD.
Yeah.
And he's pretty damn based. He actually had to pay a fine a while ago too for saying the phrase "everything for Germany."
Yeah.
Do you know why he was fined for that?
Why?
Because that very phrase was also used in the Third Reich.
Well, it was probably used since the time of the Kaiser or before as well. So he's just being traditional in his own way, right? Or something.
Yeah, that was the justification. And the Constitutional Court said, yes, you have to pay the fine because you should have known that this phrase was used in the Third Reich, and therefore you shouldn't have used it.
I believe I read something else he said, which was even like similar or even more dramatic. What was it though? Something like, just like we should never be ashamed of our past, kind of thing. Something along those lines.
Yes.
Which is great.
He made a couple of speeches along those lines, and he also wants to reform our educational system to focus less on the whole guilt tripping part and way more on the rest of German history that is really quite great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yes, it's quite marvelous. And
Alice Weidel has also said things about that. She has also said that. Yes, she has also spoken out in favor of putting the focus of education more on the achievements of German people, right? To instill a sort of sense of national pride that encourages people to continue the great works of our ancestors, right? Put a focus on our art, our science, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
After the whole interview with Elon, where she put a distance behind, herself and a certain stream of German politics in the past, some people have said, "Oh, has she cut out a little bit here?" Right? But a few days later, they had their national party rally, and during that, she said one thing that basically confirmed that yes, the AfD is going to do the right thing if they are elected. And that is the whole thing about remigration, right? About sending out the people who are causing trouble here. The word remigration has been criticized a lot by our mainstream media. Because apparently it's a no-no word, right? It's a very nasty word. It sounds bad. It's not nice. And she has said, we are going to do it, and if it is to be called remigration, then we'll just fucking call it remigration. We don't care. It's going to be remigration. We'll do it.
That's good. That's great. So you think she was hiding power? You think she's hiding power levels with the Elon talk, and she's sort of just saying the boomer talking points?
Yeah, perhaps she was hiding power levels to a certain extent there, but I think the whole point of the Elon talk was less to do election work at home and more about putting the party on an international map, right? To like get the word out, to get others to notice that there's a party in Germany that's doing the right thing.
So, what actual chance of being elected do they have? I don't even know that.
Not very much, but
I didn't know. I thought they were actually running a contender.
No, they have a very, very good chance to be a significant opposition party.
Okay, all right.
With like maybe 30% would be in the cards.
Oh, it's still only like that, is it? So we still gotta wait.
Like if they get 30% and are a powerful opposition party, that would already be very good boon. The likelihood is that the conservative party is going to win the election.
Right.
Because it's the usual flip-flop, right? You have the Social Democrats and you have the Conservatives. You have the Social Democrats and the Conservatives. Because most people still stick to the two big ones. And the Social Democrats lost a lot of goodwill because our current chancellor is one of them. And I'm not going to say anything personally.
Unless in case you get arrested or
him or anything,
he can't say his mind. That's funny.
But let's just say he has been in a couple of scandals where he, funnily enough, couldn't remember being in them when he was questioned about it. Like, that scandal where people took bribes, and allegedly I was one of the people who took bribes. Now I don't remember anything about that. He simply had a memory hole there. And the court dropped the investigation because obviously he doesn't remember anything, so he can't make any statements.
And what is the public opinion about the Nord Stream and energy from Russia and all that? Because that is the issue, I think.
Yeah, that
is most contentious. Like, and that is the aspect of her talk that makes me think, ooh, more than anything else. That when the AFD talks about that, it makes me think, well, someone's going to stop her from doing that. That they really don't like that. America or somebody.
The AfD is one of the very few parties that are against the war in Russia.
Very good.
They want peace and they want trade relations.
Probably also a popular opinion.
Yes.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
The mainstream opinion of pretty much all the big parties and the mainstream media is that the war is good because we have to stop the evil expansionist Putin before he can attack the rest of Europe, which is complete lunacy because if he attacks the rest of Europe, that triggers a NATO defense pact. He can't do that. Realistically, he cannot do that. So, but there is a big fear-mongering by the media that he would do that and that we have to stop him.
He's going to carpet bomb. He's going to carpet bomb our pride parades. And
honestly, please, Vladimir, just nuke Berlin.
No. You've been bombed enough. You've been bombed enough.
We've been bombed enough, yes. And what was I about to say? Oh yes, yesterday on that TV talk show, right, where they have big profile political commentators and all of that.
Yep.
One of them actually said about the war in Ukraine and Trump's plans to stop it. He said the good news is that Trump will not be able to make peace break out on day one.
Oh, that's the good news.
That's the good news because they want to keep the war going, and apparently that's
is this a conservative or a liberal or what is he?
I think somewhere in between. Some
okay, right.
Ultimately they're all interchangeable, right?
And globalist, yeah, whatever. And was there outcry over this, or was there outcry over this, or was that a
no? That is pretty much the universally agreed upon opinion of the mainstream media.
Okay, so AFD is not taking a popular position by being against the war.
No, they are not taking a popular position, but I'm certain there aren't a lot of, just regular citizens who would agree with the AFD's position of the war. Because I do know a lot of people, just regular people, who think that it's about time that this came to an end. Because on both sides, people just
the war is lost.
dying
Russia has won
for no reason at all, right?
Yeah, no reason. There never was a reason.
Another not very popular opinion that the AFD champions is that the whole vaccination stuff was wrong. They were one of the few parties that were staunchly against vaccine mandate during COVID. They have criticized the government's actions with the lockdowns and everything on every turn. And they never backed down on that. Right? They got a lot of pushback, never backed down. They do get pushback on the whole peace with Russia situation. They never backed down on that.
That's good, yeah.
And they also do not back down, as Alice has confirmed with her most recent statement about remigration. So all the actually important issues that concern our country and its people are things where the AfD has a position that is more than reasonable, and they are the only ones who really champion those positions. So when Elon said they are the only real hope that Germany has in this current time, he was correct. Yes, they are the only party that, as their name says, offers a real alternative for Germany.
They're the only one in Europe, I would say. I don't think any of the populist leaders, other than that, are remotely serious. They all just flip-flop. Like you said, they stick to their guns on these difficult things. Like all the others
all right,
flip-flop
maybe
or just
not the only ones. There's Hungary with Orban.
Well, okay, he's good. Yeah, he's good.
He's good.
He's good. But even he has some problems. But overall, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have everything, right? In the current situation, you got to pick the ones who are the most bad and the most good. And
exactly.
All the parties currently existing in Europe, I would say the AfD are the ones with the most good and the least bad.
Yeah. So you figure they get 30, 40% or 30%?
40 is probably a bit much. They can get into the 30s, I would say.
And how often do you have elections there?
Every 4 years, usually. The one that we have in February now are going to be, they are early elections. The last elections we had were, I think it was 22. So this is 2 years earlier. And the reason for that is because our chancellor lost the confidence vote.
Right.
And so they're doing early re-elections in which basically he is put to the test. And it is very, very unlikely that he's going to get elected again. Instead of conservative chancellor, very, very likely. There's very, very likely going to be a coalition, probably a grand coalition between the conservatives and social democrats. But we'll see. There's no
will that be a hopeless thing that will result in a lot of trouble that would actually probably further
the same shit all over again, probably.
It'll be the same shit all over again. So in another 4 years, maybe they can do it. But still, 4 years is a long time to wait, isn't it?
But maybe a little bit less of a complete train wreck as we had right now, because the the traffic light coalition, as it's called, has been as ineffective as everyone feared when they formed. Because they're basically the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Libertarians have come together into a coalition where half the people disagree with each other, which is not very effective, but it was the only way they could manage to form a functioning government.
Okay, well,
we'll see how it looks this time.
But it's a typical waste of time bullshit, political bullshit, whatever. I'm only concerned with seeing like some wave of so there's no chance of some shock AFD tidal wave. You figure no chance.
Now the thing is, even if they have a huge tidal wave, they might, in the very best miracle scenario, they not get above 50%. And if they're like stuck at 49%, even, they would need 1 more percent to have the majority. And they wouldn't get it because nobody is willing to do a coalition with them. Nobody, not even the conservatives.
Really?
The entire political establishment has stated that they will never, ever form a coalition with the AFD.
So the liberal side of things will take it to the point of almost civil war. They will be after them with like everything if it comes.
Yes, they will try to block them as hard as they can. So that's the realistic best case scenario, is that the AfD becomes a very strong opposition party, right, with a high percentage of seats.
Just able to influence things, just to stop them from doing their worst thing.
Just to stop the worst stuff. Yes.
Jesus Christ, is that the best we can hope?
It actually goes so far that in one federal state where the AfD had made pretty good gains, and the Conservative Party had to get a coalition with someone to be the ruling party. They could have chosen the AfD, right? Because conservatives and AfD, they would kind of mesh together in some of their positions. But no, instead the conservatives chose to make a coalition with the far left party.
And what
that's how much they are locked against the AfD.
They probably really hate the remigration and probably the war stuff, I guess. Yeah,
they do. But the funny thing is that after all the talk and the suggestions of plans on how to pull off the remigration plan, a lot of people, a lot of common people are fed up with things that are happening here. With not with your regular average immigrant, but with the ones that cause problems, with the criminals, with the terrorists, all of that, which are not being sent out early enough.
Yeah.
The ruling party has taken up some ideas that the AfD first stated and said, oh yeah, that's our new plan to deal with the problem of criminal immigrants. So basically other parties are stealing ideas from the AfD because they know they would work, but they are too afraid of losing ground to the AfD among the voters. So they're giving ground by adopting some policies, of course, a little bit watered down policies that are stolen from the AfD in order to retain voters who would otherwise migrate over to the AfD. So it is that hard fought. They are going to do anything in their power to stop the AfD from becoming a majority party.
I see.
They're just that afraid of them because,
so
because they know they just lose their grip on politics that they've had for the last 70 years, right?
Well, you can be sure they're just going to get more hopeless and screw things up as they go. We're just waiting for that.
Probably, right? So
that hopelessness, where their hopelessness kind of like interferes enough with their power and their surveillance state power, where you can kind of sneak in there.
The current election, what everyone is hoping for is that the AfD gets over 30% and becomes.
So that's the main thing. That's the main goal. Over 30%.
Yeah.
And is there a possibility of voter fraud stuff and all that kind of shit? Do you think in Germany? Probably not.
In Germany, less so than America.
or anywhere else probably. the most rule following people in the world.
Probably there's going to be some shenanigans, maybe. Who knows who counts the votes, but we don't have stuff like voting machines, so you actually have to have real people. You'd have to put real persons in there who would commit the fraud, and if they're caught, they can actually be held liable for it. So you can't just use a hacker to hack some voting machine.
And you probably have major fines for that. You probably have an actual major punishment.
Yeah,
I still remember this. There's an Irish woman I know living in Kaiser's Lantern in near what's that place I went? Mainz in Germany when I was there. So she was telling me that I'm sure I said this to you on one of our podcasts. She has her hedge has to be 1.4 meters high or something like that. That's the regulation on the street. That precisely. And at one point, I think it went to like 1.5 or 6 meters. And her neighbors actually like called in the whoever you call, I don't know, the police or the civic, whatever. And she got in big trouble. And it's like, okay.
It really depends on your relationship with the neighbors too. Like none of my neighbors would do such a thing.
Yeah. No. People bitch about the Germans for that kind of shit, but that's what I like about them. I do. Someone has to be like that.
Yeah, we do have things organized, right?
Organized, yeah, exactly.
We have the thing when it's voting day, it's voting day. It's just one day, and it's a Sunday, because on Sunday nobody goes to work, right? So you actually have free time to go to the voting booth and put in your
that's so obvious, and nobody else does that. You're always hassled to do these things
and
on
we
like
only have paper ballots. We do not have anything other than paper ballots.
You always have some smart way of doing things that people have.
We're literally just doing it the way we've been doing it for 70 years. Why should we change it?
Yeah,
it's paper ballot. It's counted by hand. That's it.
Yeah. No,
why
you
would
always
you do all that voting machine bullshit?
Things like that. No, I admire that. I do. Here, I want to read a chat. The Woodlander said, most people couldn't give a shit. He's talking about Ukraine, the war. The Ukraine war to them is history. It lasted longer than a week. They can't deal with anything that goes on that long. A week. How long has it gone on? How long has it gone on now? 2 years? 3?
3 years, I think. At this
is
point.
It 3?
I think it's 3.
They can't deal with anything that goes on long. Excuse me. Maybe if they marketed it as a series, yeah. Well, I know they don't give a shit, but I mean, really, there's several times there where we were like Cuban Missile Crisis, at least getting close to, thermonuclear war around the world. I think you would think that, the normals would pay attention to that. But I don't know. Did they? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know a bunch of guys in Ukraine who I'd rather not be pulled into the military and killed at the front. So let's do a peace there. Come on. It's been long enough.
Well, the Russians have won now at this point. You just got to
It's just a meat grinder at this point, but our establishment politicians really like to send in more weapons there. Fun fact, some of these establishment politicians own shares in weapon production companies,
Ooh.
So
Krups, the famous Krups.
They kind of make money from that, personally.
Amazing. And did you see what Starmer did recently? Starmer signed something or other with Zelensky saying he'd give him something like some amount in billions, 2-3 billion a year for 100 years or something like that. He agreed to do it for 100 years. He's hopefully it's something that someone can quickly unsign again.
Starmer is honestly, as bad as things are with our current government, I'm always happy to know I'm not in the UK.
He is the worst. And they have no option. They have nothing. There's nothing like AFD there. I mean, Farage is useless. He's a tit.
I think they have... Don't they have Farage's party?
Well, but he's pretty useless. He seems to just renege on everything. He's pro-immigration. He's pro... I don't think is he against the war even? I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
He's the most milquetoast libertarian nothingness that I've ever seen. He did well back in the day, but then he didn't follow up on it. And he was always kind of...
That's really the problem with British right-wingers and conservatives in general, they start a thing and it looks good, and then they just grab the bat and it's done.
Well, they had the BNP at one point, and that was pretty good. I thought it was as good as they're going to get. Maybe I don't know what was his Nick Griffin, but they had internal struggles and they fought with each other. And didn't seem to get anywhere. Excuse me. But since then they got nothing. Yeah, like, and the conservatives or the Tories, you know, they're absolutely. What have they got? They've got you know, some African woman running them now. And it's just
no, they're
did they not learn their lesson with old Rishi Sunak, who was pretty? I mean, that's the reason that Keir Starmer got the power, is because that guy was so useless and so unpopular. And now they're stuck with this fucking guy, and he is a fucking lunatic. I love Starmer. Whenever you see him, his face looks like scared, and like it doesn't know what he's doing. Like, it looks kind of like scared, like he's going to cry or something. It's like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, no, like of all the people I've seen in politics, Starmer is the one where I can confidently say just from his face that he has no soul.
Mr. Monty Fontaine says Homeland Party seems good. Who's Homeland Party? I haven't even heard of this.
Yeah, I think that's a new right-wing party in Britain.
Okay,
they're sort of rising.
Sort of rising. So they're like way behind. I think
it's going to take a while until they become really relevant. So they're the new kids on the block trying to fix things.
What I'd like to see out of Britain is a heavy metal party coming out of Birmingham, and like all the members look like Venom and Venom and Judas Priest and stuff. That would be I mean, who wouldn't vote for that? Satanic lyrics. Be great. But yeah, so Germany, as usual, is well ahead of the curve then with their party being. I mean, despite everything we said, she's lesbian. I mean, they're not going to get in this time. So in 4 years, she has 4 years to ditch that foreigner she's with and get a nicer looking lesbian. Then everything's fine.
Yeah, no, I think overall it's a good party, and she has some good positions, particularly in economy, right? And she's not the only voice in the party. We also have Björn Höcke as a very important guy. And honestly, I think he's the guy that most of the real right-wing dudes would like to be leader, but Alice is the most presentable face, certainly.
So is he that guy? So that's the guy. Does that guy really terrify the left?
Yes, he absolutely terrifies the establishment.
So why don't they just find some reason to arrest him, or knowing how corrupt, how
I mean, they tried, right? As I told you, he had to pay a fine for saying everything for Germany.
Right. So yes, well, at least we know it's now. He can keep quiet from now on, but
they can't do anything beyond that, because we are still, despite everything that's going on, we are still a nation of laws, and as long as he doesn't break any laws directly, they can't imprison him.
Right. And what?
Not that they're not trying to stick out.
So if you were to guess, what percent of AFD would be more like him, and what percent would be more sort of slightly cucky? Half and half? I don't know how many East Germans there are in Germany. To be old school East Germans.
Germany is the least populated part, but
is it? Oh, should be. Why is that? Because everybody left.
Like a lot of exodus in the 90s, right? Because they never managed to really build it up after the communists.
Because your side was your family lived in West Germany, yes, or
East? Yes, we're West.
Because I actually know a woman here from East Germany, and she always tells me. I always ask her. I was expecting horror stories about the communists, and she just tells me, no, it's just like it is here, except you had your little lectures about Lenin and stuff. And what would she say? There's some weird thing about when they went to discos and shit. When they went out. Oh, what was it? She didn't paint it in any way being the way you hear about communism being.
Yeah.
Where you get shot in the street for I'm sure it's a mix in between her anecdotal experience and the things we heard of, but I don't know. It didn't, she said it was more or less the same, except we had all our own stuff, but we were still following the trend. As a young person, she was still like doing all the same stuff people in the West are doing, and you can see that more and more.
Yeah, generally, especially in the later years of it, it opened up just a little bit, like you'd also see in Soviet Russia,
like in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah, but economically, like there was a certain failure of when we annexed the the Democratic Republic, as it called itself, and made it a part of Greater Germany. There was a failure to modernize their industry and to, to bring them up to date and to get their economy, to integrate their economy properly into our capitalist system. So while there were attempts, it was not successful enough. So right now, a lot of cities in the East are shrinking, and
why are they shrinking now when they're no longer communist? Is there still some
because the economy sucks there compared to here?
It just never recovers.
There's fewer jobs, and young people are leaving to the West.
And why? And as Germans, why can they not produce some economy? Through some. What's holding them back? Are they
if the industry isn't there, what are you going to do, right? And if there's already a trend of people leaving westward for better jobs, then you just don't have the location that attracts businesses.
And have you noticed a big difference since they blew up the pipeline? And have you noticed a big difference in Germany in work and inflation, etc., since they blew up the pipeline? The Nord Stream.
Not really.
Not really. No?
Okay. I mean, gas has become more expensive, but that's about it. But
right. Okay.
Yeah, the energy costs really have gone up, and
because you're most
certainly go down if we were to open it up again. That's why Weidel would like to open it up again, actually.
But like out of all the countries in Europe, you do some of the most manufacturing in-house kind of thing, right? But where almost everybody is certainly in Britain and Ireland seems to just like export their manufacturing to China, and they do nothing. They
did a lot of that here too, like in especially. A lot of manufacturing was outsourced.
Right.
I think recently they shut down some manufacturing plant in Germany, which lost a lot of jobs. So the deindustrialization is kind of happening here, mostly due to the policies of the ruling parties, particularly the Greens, who are really, into reducing our development as a country, right? They really like doing that.
Yeah, they love it. But that also paves the way for this kind of high finance exploitation. But like I remember when I left mines, when I was there, I could see all the plants where they still produce the opals and all that kind of stuff. There's still a certain spirit of making things for yourself there, manufacturing. At least there was.
We still have a bunch of companies that produce locally.
But is that not the source of the ultimate source of Germany's, being the economic workhorse of Europe?
Yes.
It is that, isn't it?
That's why it's
because
actually
you're not just financing bullshit stock market stuff. It's that you actually make your own stuff as much as you can.
It's a lot more about actual industrial production, which is why it's so tragic that the current government is pushing so hard at basically deindustrialization. And they are very, very bad for the economy. They are the reason that things are closing down, jobs are getting fewer. And the AFD certainly wants to stop that. The AFD wants to retain German production centers, right? Keep jobs in the country.
It's more so to do with their policy than the war or the destruction of the pipeline, because that's what I actually thought were the major factors. But I guess I'm not surprised to hear that either. I mean, I'm sure all these.
Yeah, they do very much on a. Okay, I think it would be prudent to say that the AfD is a German equivalent to MAGA in their overall goals for the country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When it comes to things like keep jobs in the country, keep manufacturing in the country, have positive relations to your neighbors, particularly also, again, to Russia, which we currently do not have. And yeah, keep out the undesirables that are flooding into the country.
So if they do well, if they get their 30%, do you think the conservatives will adopt any of these things?
Possibly,
if the conservatives win, if the
conservatives will very likely be the
will
next
win.
leaders. Yeah. So the next chancellor is likely going to be conservative.
And who is it going to be? What's his name or her name?
What's his name? I know his nickname, but I shouldn't say it because it's offensive.
Is it? You could be arrested for saying his nickname? Okay.
Probably not. Oh yeah, no, his name is Friedrich Merz.
Okay.
They call him I don't know why he's called that, but they call him Fotzenfritz, which means Fotze means cunt. So okay. So they just add cunt in front of his name.
That is pretty harsh.
So maybe he once had a thing with prostitutes or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right. That's funny. So yeah. So what are the chances of him excuse me, repairing the Nord Stream? Or I have no hope he'll talk about remigration, let's say, but perhaps Russian gas.
The Nord Stream is actually less likely than the remigration, at least in part.
Really?
Because
really? Okay.
Because the political establishment is on a hard anti-Russia course right now.
Okay, right.
But
the Russian gas means German industry, though.
Yes, but with a strong AFD opposition, it is possible that the conservatives might adopt some of their policies just to protect their own voters, right? Sort of in a way of, okay, if we don't do the things people expect from us, they will vote AfD next time. And we want to avoid that. So we'll take some of their policies, tone them down a little, and pass them off as our own. That is likely. But it will at best be half-assed.
So would they restart any nuclear plants? You think?
Unlikely. I think that's unlikely.
Really?
Because
Why?
it was Merkel who started the plan for shutting them down.
Oh, really?
She was a conservative.
Yeah.
Like she was in the Conservative Party, but really.
What was her reason?
I think she did was really conservative.
What was the reason she gave?
Fukushima, the nuclear accident in Japan. After that, we had a lot of outrage among, young green people in particular. And she was reading the room and thought, oh, all the young people want us to stop nuclear power. So if I say stop nuclear power, they're going to vote for me. That was basically her thing. She often let herself be influenced by popular opinion, particularly from the left. So yeah, that's
okay. Maybe that's her reason. But I do agree with that. It's the one thing I agree with. But like in your case, I wouldn't mind. I would, of all the people of the earth, I believe the Germans could build the safest nuclear plant that ever existed and have nuclear energy. And if anybody should be allowed to have it, it should be them. But but even then, I do think that all the talk, and I understand the economic arguments and the arguments to do with the necessity of energy and power, but it is ultimately incredibly dangerous. Like I always think to that Fukushima was bad, but I mean that was the second example, but it was really still I think of Chernobyl. And to this day, we will be lucky to still survive Chernobyl, considering that it has to be kept under a dome for something like several thousand years. Otherwise, the reactor will continue to burn and poison Europe. So we have to maintain this level of civilization for thousands of years, just for that one accident that happened to not kill us.
Yes, but that was wonky Soviet power
I know,
plant,
but still,
right?
that's the level of danger we're talking about. And
Yes,
that one may still kill us. So,
but it can't happen
who's to
with
say? Who's to
modern
say? Like,
Western
think of the
nuclear
random shit that
plants.
happens. Even the safest nuclear reactor in the world outside Berlin, in Germany,
All right,
and
I,
fucking
I I do agree with
some
your
random
concerns.
earthquake splits the earth in half right beneath. Seriously, though, you cannot account for every
I
disaster, like
Yeah,
incredible disaster.
there's one point, right? There's one thing that sort of makes me agree with your concerns, and that is the competency crisis we're currently under.
Oh, no
Uh,
shit.
because when you run a power plant, you sort of have to make sure there's people also in the future who know how to run it. And
Yeah.
currently, the world is running short on people who know how to run things. Instead, they prefer to hire people who pretend to know how to run things, particularly from India.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yes. Who talk a big talk and have many degrees and things, but actually do not know how to run things smoothly at all. Let alone
Yeah, what's
you'd
the
be lucky
value
if
of
they
a
hire you'd be
degree?
lucky if they hire Indians if they can. It's like it's the I call this I've just named this now. I call it the airport syndrome or airport mania, whatever you want to call it. Where like if you go to a Western airport, you must have a Muslim woman in a hijab checking your bags through the security. It's the ultimate act of irony, but yet it must be that way because we must prove that we are, you know, our liberal principles just demand that it must be so. So, in that sense, we must have a Somalian running the nuclear reactor. We have to. We have to have
Yes, we have to.
so you'd be lucky to get Indians running the fucking nuclear reactor probably before all said and done. So that's the as that being the that's what was it
Well, that's of course the AfD wins because they're also very much against affirmative action and all of that kind of stuff. DEI, they are completely
that would be great.
about meritocracy.
That would be
Either you
great.
can do it or you cannot do it, and we will only hire people who can do it.
Well,
That is their
eventually,
stance.
hopefully, some kind of sanity prevails because we are dealing with stuff like this. Because even like I said, because even the maintenance of Chernobyl, if it's not managed basically by competent, frankly, Europeans or Russians or whatever,
That is
then
also a
it
reason
will kill
why the
us.
war should stop.
What's that?
Chernobyl's in the war zone. That's also another reason why the war in Ukraine should stop. Chernobyl is in that war zone.
Yeah, yeah. Blow the dome off it and shit, and watch make it worse somehow. God knows. But that thing has to be covered by amazing engineering feat of concrete that has to be replaced at least every century, every 50 years, for thousands of years. So that's the danger of nuclear. I'm afraid.
Perhaps
It's
1,000
not that it's
years
not
from
safe.
now, it's going to be a religious ritual. Modern civilization has
We
forgotten
should
the
be.
ritual of
It should be.
renewing
We
the
should go there.
temple
We should go there
at
and have a little
Chernobyl.
religion. We should go there and have a little pagan ritual at the Chernobyl. Yeah, we should do it.
Every
The
century,
atomic.
the holy ritual of renewing the temple at Chernobyl needs to be performed to appease the
We should,
nuclear god.
this is a great idea for a cult. The priest, the holy temple of the atom or something. Yeah, we should
That
go
is
there
an
for hoods and like
extremely
chant around the
good
room.
idea for a sci-fi story,
Jesus,
actually.
oh, for reality, shit, we should make this real. We should be doing that. That's such a great
Cult of
idea.
the Atom, yeah.
But like whenever I raise my security concerns, I've had many an argument on Twitter about this. It seems very plain to me that it's just dangerous. Like I'd love it if they do nuclear in space, somewhere away from the Earth, where do your nuclear power outside the Earth or something somehow. But whenever I make this argument, people just get angry. They're like, "Oh,
I mean, as far as I've read,
it's always an economic argument as to why or whatever." But like, whenever I bring up these concerns, they're like, "Oh, it's safer than ever. No problem. Nothing will ever happen." It's like you think
actually, as far as I've read, modern nuclear power plants,
come
as
on,
they are currently designed,
there's no
cannot even
situation.
melt down. They
Frank,
would.
come on. As a realist, as a right wing realist person, give me a break. Think about nature. Think about how it works. There's no
Yes.
perfect 100% safe scenario ever. You think they didn't say that when they built Fukushima or Chernobyl or various other things? maybe they got safer ways, but there's always going to be something. Not just there's the incompetence, there's some random active force majeure, bullshit, fucking lightning strikes it, or the what's those things they get in Guatemala where the sinkholes just fucking or some random fucking thing. God knows what. It's dangerous as hell. Considering we will be lucky to still survive the one Chernobyl. And you want to build like hundreds more all around, thousands, one of those is going to fuck up.
Maybe just 5.
Fuck. In Germany,
might be enough.
We're talking about around the world. They're always building these fucking things. John Gora says Chernobyl Diaries is a guilty pleasure for me. What's that? It's not the Chernobyl TV show, is it?
I don't know that either. I just saw the TV show. It's very well made.
Yeah, it is very well made, except for the
female
woman? Character.
Yes.
So annoying.
They just had to introduce a female scientist who didn't actually exist.
This dead real story. They try to get all the facts, dramatic, hyper dramatic, real, and then they just invent this female character who's like this. They don't just invent her, but they make her like this moralizing savior, combating all the stuffy old men.
Yeah, she's the one who points out to Legasov how.
She's the one telling them, "Oh, this is wrong. She doesn't exist. They made it up for the fucking thing."
He sits there. He's looking at his plans, and she comes. He's wondering. He's trying to make the final connection, and she's there. Oh yeah, here, look at this. Oh yeah, thank you, woman.
I remember seeing that and thinking, as soon as I saw that, I knew it was bullshit because I thought there's no way in that era of Soviet Russia there was even a female scientist to be seen. I mean, maybe not at that level, a physicist.
Probably not at that high level. No.
Like maybe, but so she was actually, and I read in the Wikipedia, she's an amalgamation of like 5 different men who were sort of warning them and crusading. And it's like, that again is the airport principle, where you have to have.
If you add 5 men together, you get a woman apparently.
Oh, he says it's a cheesy horror from the 2000s. Okay, Chernobyl Diaries. I never heard of it.
If it's 2000s, there has to be.
And Vingo says, would it not work to bury the Chernobyl reactor deep under dirt and rock? Does it have to be airtight concrete? No.
If you bury it, it just keeps sinking, and when it hits the groundwater, you're fucked.
Is it still sinking? Are they still like building it?
Because they managed to stop it, but that's why you can't just bury it, right?
Right. Yeah. All those guys like that tunneled beneath it. Yeah. And they whatever they did, I guess fill it concrete or whatever. That's probably also
they did something to seal it off. But
that's probably also a job that needs redoing and maintenance. Anyways, we're totally off the topic of AFD. Yeah. Sorry, we're talking too long about nuclear shit, but I have to get into my. It's a difficult thing, and I still don't understand why I'm so alone in my concerns. It feels to me I'm making very reasonable arguments.
It is because the way I've read it is that modern nuclear plants they are built in a way that they have automatic fail-safes and stuff like that, and they would not even possibly be able to melt down. So it's just how the physics in them work. Now, I'm no nuclear physicist, so I can't confirm or deny it.
No disaster could make them melt down. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing. As far as you know. All right. Okay. Yeah. So about the AFD, yeah. So we covered it about all the questions I had. I think I don't know. Like, so you figure she's hiding power level. I didn't know that. I actually thought they had a chance in the elections or something like that. So that's disappointing for me.
No. I very much don't think that they have a chance in the elections yet. But it was like recent developments were still positive from an overall trajectory standpoint, because they have confirmed and reaffirmed that they will, if they are ever elected, go through with the remigration plan. They have not cocked out at all. And since you asked, like, how many are based, how many are cocked, I would say that, like, even at the most cocked tire of AFD members, you have people who are at least on board with all the most important main points of the party. We do not have a situation like in America where, half of the Republicans are MAGAs and half are just rhinos who would rather return to the uniparty system and are actively sabotaging Trump. You have nobody in the AFD who sabotages the party. Everyone in there is basically on the same line when it comes to the main points of economy, energy independence, peace with Russia, remigration. We have absolutely zero disagreements on anything there because it is a relatively new and small party. I think they were founded in 2014. I could be wrong, but
who founded them?
It was during or quite before a European Parliament election. And the first time I ever voted for them was in that European Parliament election. They founded themselves exclusively for the purpose of representing German interests in the European Parliament. They did initially not even consider running in Germany. They just ran for the European Parliament to sort of represent national interests. And then as time went on, they started doing national politics too. And pretty much everyone in the party was from the start a Eurosceptic, like a European Union skeptic, and immigration skeptic, all of that kind of stuff. So while there are some more lightweight people in there, right, who maybe want to just do half measures when it comes to some things, we have nobody who is entirely opposed to any of the points that the AfD stands for. Because it is such a young party and a party that was based from the start.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I've sort of followed them all this time, and she's been the leader of it for quite a little while now. And she used to say more base things, and I think you're right that she's hiding her power levels and all the rest of it, and that it's just such a funny, unique thing. It's sort of the Germanness in you that makes them stick to their guns, and it's like when a German outlines what they're going to do and the way they're going to be, they're going to stick to it, like to the bitter end, basically. They're going to follow that rule until it's
yeah, like
religiously. So
when some people start doom posting because her optics aren't good enough, right? I'm just gonna say from a policy standpoint, I don't give a fuck what her optics are. She's gonna stick to the policies, and those are all good for the country. And there's no other party in the country that has similar policies that would be as good for us as theirs. Yeah. So as long as they've existed, I have only voted for them, and I'm going to continue to do so for as long as they exist. As long as they don't come out, obviously, which they probably won't do. They've proven
it's great that you have the option. Absolutely fantastic that you have the option. There's nobody here in Ireland for me to vote for that I can see. There's what remains of the National Party, but they really imploded and screwed themselves up, to be honest. So there's no.
I think the AFD has actually done an admirable job of preventing themselves from imploding. They've only grown stronger.
Probably part of it is, I mean, maybe she's very shrewd politically, otherwise as well. But maybe part of it is the fact that she is this fucking lesbian with a foreign girlfriend. As much as that part annoys us, probably that part really smooths her over with, various normals and
Yeah, but you also have to consider that she's not the only important voice in the party.
Right.
We have Björn Höcke. We have
the
other
amazing. Yeah. Who else? And, who's another important voice?
I don't even know if some of the names that I remember are relevant anymore, but there's Beatrix von Storch, who was always on the far right edge of the party, and she's not really relevant anymore, but she sometimes still comes out to say something. So she was sidelined, but she's still there, right? So
Vingo says something I don't understand what he's saying. Saw her use remigration in a speech for the first time recently, but she said it like, and if that's called remigration, then it's called remigration. So I'm not sure what you're saying.
Yes, that was the speech that I mentioned earlier towards the beginning. That basically there was this whole media outrage over the term remigration, right? It's a boo-boo term. The media says remigration is bad, and anyone who talks about remigration is a racist, things like that.
Right.
So Alice Weidel basically came out and said, we're going to deport people who are committing crimes and are not Germans. We're going to deport criminal immigrants. And if that is called remigration, then we will call it remigration. I don't care, basically.
Right.
Telling the media to fuck off with their whole drama about the term remigration and how using the term makes you a Nazi or something.
Oh, so he's saying, Vingo says, she may think that's assertive, but it's weak. She had the opportunity to say it like it is, not controversial, as in he means just deporting all foreigners or non-desirables. Well, yeah, I do think it's probably prudent of her to say it the way she said. I would agree.
I think the way she said it was actually an affirmation that the AFD is going to go through with it. It was not at all something weak, especially the way she said it.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's certainly like one of the few people that, from what everything Frank's saying and from what I've heard, this is one of the few groups that actually would follow through if they got power and at least do that much. I don't believe, I could be wrong, and hopefully I am wrong. I personally don't believe that Trump is going to do mass deportations. I think he's going to grant an amnesty. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Trump is one who might follow through with some of his promises.
Yeah.
But I think overall, the AfD has more conviction to pretty much all the points they've raised.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never seen any wavering on the core points from them.
Yeah.
Which is remigration, peace with Russia.
Wavering, you said. I'm surprised you're not tempted to say wavering. Wavering. You turned them both into V's. That's funny.
Yeah, remigration, peace with Russia. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, the actual prosecution of people involved in the COVID crisis.
Okay.
They actually want to go after people who demanded vaccinations, about the actual companies who developed them, and of course people in government like the health minister.
And is that popular? Is that a popular thing?
Like that? It's not particularly popular because like 70% of people here apparently got the vaccination. But that's the thing. The AfD doesn't care whether their points are widely popular or not. They have their principles and stick to them, which they've shown again and again, and I admire them for that. That's why I think they actually have the highest chance of any political entity to go through with their promises, because they stuck. Never flipped through a single issue.
They're unwavering. She is the leader of the AFD, yes, unequivocal. So if
she is the leader, but our parties are not like this just one leader, and everyone like follows. It's more multipolar.
You think their unwavering nature is
figurehead.
Their unwavering nature is. Do you think it's thanks to her or thanks to what's his name again? The popular guy.
I wouldn't think it's due to either individual. It's just something that it's inherent to the party and the people who join.
Okay.
Because the party is so vilified in our mainstream media. It goes even beyond how Trump was vilified in the American media. Right? So if you join the AfD, you do it because you're convinced of their positions. Because if you join them, you are going to carry some negative social clout from it, right? You're going to be stigmatized.
Mm-hmm.
And you will only take on that stigma if you actually believe in their positions.
Patty Irishman says, do you have any thoughts on Sarah Wagenknecht? Do you know that?
Sarah Wagenknecht. Okay, yes. Yes.
Hold on, let me just finish. She says, who seems quite based on some issues. Could the alt-left and right work together to outplay the socialist conservatives?
So, Sarah Wagenknecht is one I consider sort of based on some issues, but she is far left. That is what she is, socially and economically in particular. So while the AFD has very good economic policies, including things like completely abolish inheritance tax, because you shouldn't have to pay tax on the house you inherit from your grandparents, things like that, right? They want to go lower on tax and everything. Sarah Wagenknecht is the opposite on those positions. She wants more social security stuff. She wants more taxes. She wants more government control on social issues because she is a classical communist. That is what she is economically. She has split off, however, from her party, the far left party. It calls itself just the left, right? That old thing. And they're basically the leftovers of the SAD, the Socialist Unity Party from the German Democratic Republic. That's their origin. So, they're basically communists. And she was in that party and split off from them because of their woke positions, right? They're all about the woke stuff, like transsexuals and all that kind of bullshit. And Sarah Wagenknecht is more like a Soviet Union communist, right? She doesn't vibe with all that weird sex and rape stuff. But she's still a communist. She's basically the Soviet Union candidate. She founded her own party now, and many of her policies that she suggested are the bad kind of left-wing policies. The only thing that she does have overlap in with the AfD is that she doesn't want endless immigration because she's the kind of communist who actually wants to protect the local workers. And she wants peace with Russia, which is also not surprising considering she's the Soviet candidate, kind of. But yeah, no, she also said she wouldn't do a coalition with the AfD, though.
I keep having arguments with
She cucked out in that regard.
Excuse me.
Like she's sort of flirting more with the establishment than with the true alternative.
I keep having arguments with like anti-Russia people online that think all Russians are communists, and even like what was the one I had recently? Someone said I made a response to Alexander Dugin of all people, right? So he's not a communist; he's like some third positionist, whatever the fuck he is. He's ridiculous in his own way, but I mean, he wrote a whole book about his political theory, and this guy was like, "No, he's a communist." You just have to, all his.
He's just your average pan-Slavic Russian guy, right? It's
not
just
even he's not even like he's totally anti-racist, and he's got some seriously goofy ideas. And in fact, what did I see him post today? He posted a picture of himself, an AI picture of himself in a tent with David Lynch, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like they're. As in, like, is he accepting Lynch into the afterlife? Or fucking Alexander Dugin, as though they have any relation?
That's kind of amazing, though. I love it when people,
it is amazing.
actually influential political philosophers make shitposts like that. The best kinds of thinkers are the completely shitso guys.
Well, the guy who edited my art book also edited. I never actually read Dugin's book. But he was a good guy. I liked him. I haven't talked to him for years, actually. But he also edited Dugin's book. And he said he wasn't impressed. He said he thought it was like silly. But I don't know why he's made it into the mainstream in a kind of this boogeyman of
Yeah, he made it into mainstream because Putin is a big fan of him.
Is that why? All right.
Yeah. And after the Ukraine war, people were looking into what's Putin actually thinking here, and then they came upon Dugin's book, and they're like, oh, so it's basically just an implementation of Dugin's ideas in a way.
Well, so it's the third position, which is basically sort of. I mean, we don't talk about forbidden things, do we? But like even my response to him was like, he was like, we should go back to the traditional left and right or something like that. I think I said something like, well, left and right are both a materialist creation of the French Revolution. And if you want to go back to a true tradition, you've got a patriarch running the family. You've got to have like a local who maybe in the a jarl running your village, king running your state, and an emperor running your your portion of the world. And that's, as we've discussed many times, Frank, that is the true traditional way to run things.
That is the true traditional way.
That's why I love in Germany. There's still that certain link to the really like Imperial Germany was my favorite Germany myself. Even when like that Irish woman I know that I was telling you about, the fact that she lives in a place called Kaiser's Lantern, I just think that's excellent. Just the name of it, I mean, that's commonplace for you and that kind of thing, but
certainly.
That link to the ancient world, like, and how it's supposed to be. If you see even the old World War I era beer halls and stuff, the design of them is so amazing. Big vaulted arches.
Yeah, a lot of them are a lot older than that, right? I mean, there's in Munich the Hofbräuhaus.
Is there one near you?
But it was like the Royal Bavarian brewery, and they have good beer, but like it's a little bit overrated when it comes to service. But it's a nice building, right? It's
hold on. Vingel is saying something crap here. Dugin is very opposed to third position. He calls what he's for the fourth way. Sorry, right. Third position.
Oh,
okay, the fourth way. Sorry. I was on third, and when it's fourth, yeah. Okay. No, he's not. Hold on. What's third position then? Third position is fast.
Third position. That's more like what Evola would be like, right?
Well, no, because Evola was like just what I was just saying, like pre.
Yes, but that is
left and right tradition. Is that third position? Oh shit! Okay,
that so
what's fucking the fourth position? I don't even know.
Apparently, that's something Dewey came up with then.
I had some. His book was summarized to me at one point. His book was summarized to me at one point. It's just like a vague nothingness, because he was like, it wasn't like racial per se, but it was like they were going to live with shit. How was it going to work? I don't remember. It was something without being too communisty and without being too fascisty. And
I guess what you come up with when you're too cool for any of the three existing ones.
Fourth. I've got a fourth position. I just think it should be, you got a king. It's very straightforward. And that's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
You obey the king. And if you don't like him, you kill him.
Basically, you got to return to Rome.
The king is responsible for everything that happens. He's not a politician that just leaves after 4 years. It's just like, imagine Biden, all the chaos Biden caused. Imagine if he couldn't just leave. He's like, no, you're responsible for this. You are fully responsible for everything.
Also, by having a king in power, you also guarantee that any policy, whether they may be good or bad, will actually be pulled to the end. Because right now we have the kind of flip-flop thing. You see it in the USA. You have 4 years of Trump, then he got voted out, and then you got 4 years of Biden, who throws out all the policies and does his own. And then Trump comes on again, and he throws out all of Biden's policies and returns his own. So you don't have continuity. You don't have any sort of long-term planning, right? Because when a guy has maximum 8 years in power, and every 4 years there can be another one that has completely opposite plans, you just can't do anything. You can't plan out something that takes a decade.
No.
And everything great takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing that lasted for centuries has arisen in mere days.
Yeah, that's why we are old world statecraft supporters. There's no third position. There's no. You can make up a fifth position if you like. It'll be some bullshit.
There's only one position. Everything
there's
is
only one position. Only ever was one position. Because look at it the way it is. If anytime you, maybe with capitalism, because of the term limits, they found a way to scupper the, the system where, because say even with communism, eventually you had a Stalin who became like an absolute autarch, full control. More so than any pharaoh or emperor that ever lived, he had control over everything in his grasp. People's minds, history, it all belonged to him. So that just communism just went right into full. I mean, they all lead to it. They all want to go there. Any system, there's no way to do anything with a hierarchy.
Yeah, see, the thing about communism, particularly, communism abolishes any kind of God. So above the great leader, there is nothing else. While in classical monarchies, the gods are above the pharaoh, right? So there's always someone, a divine entity that the great leader is accountable to.
Right.
Stalin isn't accountable to anyone because there is no God.
Very good point, Frank. Very necessary. Extremely necessary. I believe Michi said you're a very gentle soul, Frank, or something like that. I missed it, I think. Shit, where'd it go? Frank is such a gentle, sweet flower. I think she likes it. Well, Frank, what do you think about that? Maybe he doesn't like that talk. Well, he'll take it. Better than nothing. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, pagan emperor is the only way, Mr. Montefontaine. Yes, it is the only way, for fuck's sakes. Why all this dicking around? I mean, we're talking about statecraft that is proven for millennia. Everyone says, like, I've seen people bitch that they didn't dare say it about Egypt, but I saw someone say, like, oh, Rome obviously was a failure, and everything they did was a failure because it ended. As though, like, the fact that something has a term limit means it was forever hopeless. But no, everything ends. You know, every empire will end.
Also, Rome lasted far longer than pretty much any other state entity we know of.
I saw just to prove that, this is the way they view things. I don't know what they think. They think that the now they're living in, they can't conceive that it's how temporary it is now.
Yeah. Also, like, if you look at the long tail of Rome, you got its start when it starts as an empire. It lasts until late antiquity, right? But only the western part. The eastern part, as Byzantium, lasted until 1453, until it was taken by the Ottomans. And then the Ottomans declared themselves the Sultans of Rome, because the name itself was still powerful. But then there's also the Holy Roman Empire in Germany, which saw itself as the spiritual heir of Rome. And then the Russians also saw themselves as the third Rome. So Rome has such a long tail in history. Everyone wants to be its heir, right? And inheritance is also a big principle of traditionalism. Everyone dies eventually. Empires also die. But then there are sons who take up the mantle, just as it happened with Rome. There were successor kingdoms that took up the mantle. So it didn't really die, did it?
No. As well as caste. Caste is another important factor. So why do you think this is so impossible for people to relate to? Is it because they don't read the classics? They don't read properly about history? If I mention...
Maybe they're too brainwashed by different ways of thinking.
If I mention...
it requires different modes of thinking.
Well, I don't know. Does it, though? I mean, it's just like, even with people that might more or less agree with us, it seems like there's a kind of 20th century barrier. They believe, I think, that after the Industrial Revolution, you must have one of these materialist options. Fascism, communism, capitalism, basically, are the more or less whatever Dugin's one is. I don't know. But, they all kind of miss the mark a little bit. Where I don't see any reason why you can't have industrialization plus traditional statecraft. I really don't. I mean, do you?
I don't see either. No.
Yeah, I don't
it's
see the
just
blockage.
the
But
coincidence of
people laugh at
history.
you for bringing this up. They were like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." Oh, mostly because they'll tease you about slavery, which we've covered before. Or they'll bitch about slavery, or what else would they bitch about? This is it's totally inconceivable. And then you say, all I have to say is like, well, we're talking about the entirety of history, written history, all the great classics and the incredible empires and inventions and everything up and until basically the beginning of the 20th century, which wasn't that long ago. And so if you want to talk about a proof, look at all the systems, political and otherwise, that have come and gone since the beginning of the 20th century. And we've got this proven ancient statecraft method where you don't have a revolving door of these insurance salesman politicians, but you have a person who is responsible with their life and their family's life on the line.
I mean, it ended not even that long ago, right? 1918.
It's still around. They're still actually not only functioning but thriving monarchies in the world today. It's nothing like Bhutan.
Yeah, there's
very
Bhutan.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, Bhutan is probably the best example. I mean, there's obviously Saudi Arabia, but they're kind of fucked up just because they're idiots.
Yeah, but that's because they're Arabs. That's not because they're monkeys.
That's why, because they're idiots. Yeah. But if we, I don't know. It is obviously the best system to me, and to you, and to other, also fans of fantasy and science fiction. But it's not like we're just dreamers. I mean, this was reality, as I said, until quite recently. Yeah. And it worked. It did work. Thousands and all of history, it worked. Because it's just an honest. Because in that you will inevitably end up with a hierarchy. Just be open and honest about it. You will have someone in charge, the king. Alice Weidel. How do you say it again? Weidel. Alice Weidel. She will be the empress with her. She'll have a consort, she'll have a consort of lesbians about her throne, and let her live.
Right now, what you practically have in most Western democracies.
She'll have to bear a child. She'll have to have sex with a man and bear a child. She'll have to.
And what you practically have is that the ruling powers are the established political parties and the people who get into high positions in these parties, right? They usually get there through nepotism, not through any sort of achievement. So you do sort of have ruling families. I mean, just look at how in the USA, there's like the Clintons are sort of a ruling family, right? The Kennedys are also sort of a ruling family. Most presidents or influential politicians come from big families. So even though it is technically an open system, certain hierarchies just develop. And the ones we currently have, or the ones that are currently developing, are not hierarchies of the highest quality. Let's just say.
That's right. And they can get off scot-free, like Biden will. All the mischief Biden caused.
Yeah.
He's just going to walk away. He's done. I'm retired now. Goodbye. What bullshit. Someone says, Frank looks like horror rocker Rocky Erickson. Yes, Rocky Erickson, the 13th floor elevators. You know him, yeah?
Usually I get compared to Rasputin.
Rasputin, yeah. Well, Rocky Erickson, you do look like a bit like Rocky Erickson, yeah. He 13th floor elevators, yeah, they were good. That's that song I really liked. Levitation, that's a good song. Yeah, if you don't know them, I'll send it to you. Actually, you probably like them.
Yeah, you got to send that over.
Yeah. So I mean, we've lost sight of the AFD thing, but I mean, we're still talking about whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've said everything that's to be said about the party, right?
Yeah, as a German in Germany,
their prospects in Germany, and their policies, and that I'm actually pretty confident that they'll stick to it.
Yeah, so I guess that's it. There you go. Lesbian Reich. The Lesbian Reich is coming, but it may be another 4 years.
Maybe another 4 years. Yes.
I, for one,
I'm definitely not going to bet money on the AFD becoming the ruling party this time around. Miracles happen, but it's very unlikely this time. So
right. Well,
we're just hoping for a strong opposition.
And maybe I will volunteer myself to impregnate the Empress when she takes her throne. I'll battle my way through the lesbians, right up to the top of the throne.
Isn't she? Oh, isn't she a little bit too old for it at this point? Well, maybe she's still got a couple of years. Yeah, wanted to.
Women have had babies at 60. My wife had a baby at 40 something.
Yeah, 40 something is still very realistic. But yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Lily says, I found her very... Lily, you fucking idiot. Where's your questions? You asked one retarded question, mocking poor Frank. Or not mocking him.
Maybe it was a compliment, okay.
Yeah, it was awesome. I found her very inspiring. So Lily likes her. Well, that's good. But yeah, she is good. Hiding her power levels. Good overall. But her partner is ugly. And a foreigner.
Yes. She does not have the taste in women.
Yeah. No shit. Yeah, I think you do better than that. I'll send you the link to the one who's very good looking. Whatever her fucking name was. Jesus Christ, she was good looking. But that's it, Frank. It's the final curtain. So that's it.
Yep.
I'm gonna say goodbye. Now you've learned everything you need to know about the AFD. So keep your eyes peeled and watch out. And remember, traditional monarchy, absolute theocratic autarky. That's what you want.